Nothing's first ever flagship phone is here, the Nothing Phone 3. It boasts that iconic yet refreshed design language and a flagship-level chipset, among others. With the brand entering the flagship space, a price hike is to be expected. Spoiler alert, the Phone 3 starts at just under 45,000 pesos. But does the price increase justify it as a solid flagship starter? Or would you be better off with the more affordable POCO F7 Ultra, which offers almost the same flagship level experience at a lower price? That's what we're here to find out in this comparison review. So without further ado, I'm your host CJ, and let's get right into the video. First, let's talk about the design. As soon as you see these devices, you'll immediately know which is which. The one with the quirkier design is of course the Nothing Phone 3. Our unit is in the black colorway, and it surely carries Nothing's DNA with that transparent and industrial look. However, the iconic glyph lights are gone and now replaced with the so-called glyph matrix. This is a mini screen at the rear, housing 489 mini LEDs in a dot matrix fashion. With the glyph matrix, the phone's back is now a bit more useful, doing beyond just the usual glyph notifications. We've talked a lot more about the glyph matrix in our full review, and you can watch that here on our YouTube channel if you haven't. So going back to the design, the Phone 3 spots a triple camera setup at the rear, and it's a drastic change from the Phone 3A. It's also a divisive one for that matter because of the telephoto lens placement. The phone sports a flat-edge design, accompanied with an aluminum frame and a thin layer of Gorilla Glass on both the front and the back panels for extra protection. Moving over to the POCO F7 Ultra, it goes for a more minimalist look. Our unit comes in yellow with a circular camera island on the top left corner, and you'll notice some decorative lines splashed around it. The back housing curves on all sides, making it slightly more comfortable to hold. Aside from that, there's not much to write home about. Both models are also IP68 rated, providing enhanced resistance against dust and water submersion. Now, when it comes to design, I would personally prefer the unique and functional aesthetics of the Phone 3. Still, the POCO F7 Ultra has a sleek minimalist look, but when placed next to the Phone 3, my eyes would easily be drawn to the Nothing Phone. No cap. At the end of the day though, design is subjective, and with each having no significant advantage over the other, then it's just fair to give them both a point this round. Flip both phones over, we are greeted by vivid AMOLED screens of the same size. Both models sport a 6.67-inch AMOLED panel running at 120Hz refresh rate, but that's where the similarities end. The Nothing Phone 3's display has a full HD Plus resolution with 460 ppi, a peak brightness of 4500 nits, and Gorilla Glass 7i on top. On the other hand, the POCO F7 Ultra boasts a higher screen resolution at 1.5K, a higher pixel density at 526 ppi, a lower peak brightness at 3200 nits, and has POCO Shield Glass. What's a bit of a downgrade from the Phone 3 though is the lack of LTPO, despite being marketed as a true flagship. While the POCO F7 Ultra also doesn't feature an LTPO panel, its more affordable price can justify that. Setting that aside, both phones provide a satisfying visual experience. I had no issues watching my favorite content on YouTube as well as Netflix for both models, offering vivid colors, good contrast, and true deeper blacks. In terms of audio quality, the Nothing Phone 3 does earn my compliments for delivering a noticeable better soundstage. The highs and mids are loud and detailed, while the bass really pops and has the kind of punch that you'd expect out of a flagship device. The POCO F7 Ultra does offer almost the same level of clarity across the highs and mids. However, the bass is not as punchy to my liking. For biometric security, both phones feature on-the-display fingerprint sensors, albeit the POCO F7 Ultra uses a more advanced ultrasonic sensor. The Nothing Phone 3 is left with an optical one. That said, both phones are quick to recognize my fingerprint, unlocking almost instantly the moment I press my thumb. However, that doesn't really give the F7 Ultra a major advantage in the multimedia aspect. Therefore, this round, I'm giving the point to the Nothing Phone 3 as it delivers an overall better audio experience. Now, in terms of performance, the Nothing Phone 3 definitely raised an eyebrow. It's powered by the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4, which isn't exactly the most high-end chipset out there. What's really interesting is that the F7 Ultra, despite its significant lower cost, managed to get the bleeding-edge Snapdragon Snapdragon 8 Elite. While the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4 is pretty powerful on its own, our benchmark results clearly show the significant advantage that the true flagship chip offers. In our Antutu test, the Phone 3 surpassed 1.9 million points, and that's already a solid result. Meanwhile, the POCO F7 Ultra achieved the highest score at 2.3 million points. The same trend is true for other tests, with the F7 Ultra consistently delivering notable gains across the board, except the Phone 3's Antutu storage results, showing faster read and write speeds. Setting the numbers aside, I would say the average user won't notice any difference. Using both phones is a breeze. Navigation is absolutely smooth, and each device can handle everything you throw at it. On the subject of gaming, despite not having the most high-end chip, the Nothing Phone 3 does hold its ground. The phone handled graphic-intensive titles like Wuthering Waves and Zenless Zone Zero really well without any noticeable stutters. As for the POCO F7 Ultra, playing such graphically demanding games is a piece of cake. Notably, another advantage it offers is frame generation feature. This makes your gameplay far smoother with the phone automatically inserting new frames thanks to a dedicated display chip called Vision Boost D7. In fact, there's a specific frame generation setting on Wuthering Waves that is present on the F7 Ultra, but not on the Phone 3. So performance-wise, it's a hard fact that the POCO F7 Ultra smashes the competition with its superior processing power. Thus, it secures the point this round, keeping the match even. For optics, the Nothing Phone 3 does counter with a slightly better camera setup. All of its cameras come in 50-megapixel sensors, including a primary camera, an ultra-wide lens, a periscope telephoto lens, and a selfie camera. On the other hand, the POCO F7 Ultra has similar setups, but not the same megapixels. It features a 50-megapixel main shooter, another 50-megapixel for telephoto, a 32-megapixel ultra-wide, and a 32-megapixel selfie shooter. Taking a look at our sample shots, you can see that there's not a lot of difference in terms of image quality. The sharpness is on point, colors are accurate, and both deliver a good amount of dynamic range. The F7 Ultra's on the warmer side though, while the Phone 3 applies a cooler tone. It's only when you zoom in that the POCO F7 Ultra captures a bit softer image. It's the same case for zoom shots, possibly because the Nothing Phone 3 uses a more advanced periscope telephoto camera. The quality even gets worse in ultra-wide shots for the F7 Ultra. As for video, the F7 Ultra can shoot to 8K at 24 frames per second, while the Phone 3 is capped at 4K at 60 frames per second. That's a neat advantage, but when shooting at the same resolution and frame rate, both phones do a good job. The quality is superb with nice colors, and stabilization works great for both models. While both phones appear to handle videos quite well, the level of quality that the Phone 3 offers in terms of capturing images is relatively better in my opinion. So it secures another point this round. Battery life is another interesting topic in this comparison. While the POCO F7 Ultra packs a larger 5300 mAh battery, the Nothing Phone 3 with the 1550 mAh unit lasted far longer in our testing. The Phone 3 surpassed 17 hours and 49 minutes of runtime in our PC Mark battery life test. That's over 3 hours longer than the F7 Ultra, lasting only 14 hours and 16 minutes. That was apparently the outcome despite the F7 Ultra supposedly having a more efficient chip and a larger battery pack. As for charging, the F7 Ultra has an advantage, featuring a blazing fast 120 watts of wired and 50 watts of wireless charging. The Phone 3 still gets a decent 65 watts of wired and 15 watts of wireless charging. A major drawback for me though is the lack of the charging brick in the box. Unfortunately, the Phone 3 does exactly that. While battery life is always a key factor when comparing devices, what matters even more here is convenience. I'm specifically talking about getting everything you need in a single purchase. That's where the F7 Ultra comes in. It includes a 120-watt charging brick right in the box, which not only saves you the hassle of a separate purchase, but also cuts down on extra costs. For that reason, I'm giving the point to the F7 Ultra this round. Software-wise, we see quite the disparity here. Both phones run the latest Android 15 out of the box. The POCO F7 opts for a more iOS-inspired UI with its HyperOS 2, while the Nothing Phone 3 stays in line with the ideal vision of Android through its Nothing OS 3.5. For the most part, both systems provide a generally great software experience. However, my one complaint for the F7 Ultra is the presence of ads and bloatwares on the system level. Meanwhile, the Nothing Phone 3 remains clean and free of any bloatware, except the first-party apps which are equally as useful as Xiaomi's apps. Now, for the upgrade policy, the F7 Ultra is promised to get up to 4 major OS upgrades and 6 years of security patches. The additional 1 year is a step in the right direction for sure. However, the Phone 3 one-ups the competition by offering longer software support with up to 5 years of major Android upgrades and 7 years of security patches. Connectivity-wise, both phones provide all the essentials: Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and NFC. Only the Phone 3 has eSIM support, but only the F7 Ultra has an IR blaster. In this area, the point definitely goes to the Nothing Phone 3 thanks to its cleaner software experience and longer updates. So finally, let's talk about the price. With a starting price of $44,999, it's a bit of a hard pill to swallow for something that's marketed as a true flagship, but not quite flagship in terms of specs. Still, based on our findings, the Nothing Phone 3 comes out ahead thanks to better software, a superior set of cameras, and a quirky design that stands out. So while it lacks some of the features found in top-tier flagships, the Phone 3 still manages to deliver a solid near-flagship experience. The POCO F7 Ultra's trump card is, without a doubt, its incredible value for money. Starting at just 34,999 pesos, it packs the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite, a capable set of cameras, and delivers an overall solid experience without hurting your wallet. It's easily one of the top recommendations at this price point. So if you want a phone that doubles as a conversation starter with its unique design, great cameras, clean software, then the Nothing Phone 3 is a great choice. But if you're all about value and want the best performance possible for significantly less, the POCO F7 Ultra is the one to go for. Ultimately, the choice is yours. But hey, what do you guys think of this comparison between the Nothing Phone 3 versus the POCO F7 Ultra? Are you Team Nothing or Team POCO, at least in this comparison? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you find this video helpful or informative, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you won't miss out on any of our future uploads. Follow us on the socials, that's Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, and visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been CJ, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye! See you later!